Oh, dude, that got picked up. Enjoy that.
Hey, Matt, congratulations on your success, brother. And I really appreciate you giving, both sides, and just free speech the opportunity to have a platform, dude.
Got it. You got it. Thanks for everything you've done for this country, Eli. We'll talk next time. Tell Jen hello, and I'll have this ready in a couple of hours, and you can share it and take a look. I thank you, man.
Thanks, brother.
All right. Bye-bye. What's going on, Don't Unfriend Me Nation? So you were in Oklahoma? Is that
the Oklahoma City?
That's Los Angeles class, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. What squadron was that out of? That wasn't out of it's not Bangor. Was it Norfolk or San Diego?
I'm actually not sure. So the long story made really short on that one is that I was with Second Fleet on a fast frigate, and when we went to do our mobilization to the Mediterranean Sea, we were attached to the America Battle Group. The Oklahoma City was one of the submarines that was guarding that battle group, and so we went. I never saw land on this thing. I was never assigned to it formally.
No.
It was just part of a couple of day thing where they had a couple of people go over to the frigate. We had a couple of people that went from our platform over to the submarine. They showed off. It was awesome.
Yeah. Everything was at a Bangor for me, and USS Nebraska, which was an Ohio class, and
That's a big boy.
Yeah, she's a big vessel. But anyway, okay, cool. I just was asking out of curiosity more than anything. I just subheads are
they're
kind of like
breed.
CBs. Yeah, they're different breed. They're like CBs. You just whatever, dude.
I couldn't do that hot racking thing. No way.
No. I need my own rack. If I'm going to get crabs, it's going to be from a Taiwanese prostitute, not my buddy. So anyway, welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show, everybody. Hi, Leroy and I were talking a little bit of about United States Navy and service and stuff. It happens before the show. My name is Matthew Spear. Welcome to the Don't Unfriend Me show. Excellent timing, Olivia. Perfectly done. Don't Unfriend Me show tonight. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to do something a little off the cuff. But first of all, Olivia Spear is in the house. Olivia. Yes, Olivia Spear is in the house. And then Leroy Jenkins is here. Leroy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy Friday. Welcome to the dummies. Welcome to everyone.
Happy Red Friday.
And let's have some fun, right?
Yeah, it is Red
wore
Friday.
red today.
Yeah, speaking.
And you two are twins.
Yes, we well.
How
yes,
do you do that?
yes, we are twins.
Yeah, that thing.
It's Red Friday, RED Friday, which stands for Remember Everyone Deployed. A movement designed to honor veterans and deployed U.S. troops by wearing a red shirt every Friday. As simple as that may be, Red Friday is a great way to back those who serve our country. Go to DUMShow.com and search for Red Friday to get your red on.
We are over on Rumble. Go and see us over there.
Good morning.
Rumble.com/The DUM Show. And also, tonight's show is brought to you by PFC Flags, American wooden flags made by Jason and Katie in Virginia, right near my house. We throw a rock at it. Stop on by pfcflags.com and order yourself some cool flags. Tell them Matt sent you. I would appreciate it. Tonight, what are we doing? Well, I had a viewer come on and start talking about Convention of States, and it's been about 2 years since I did the show on Convention of States, and a lot of people can't find it. Convention of States is it's not an exactly, I don't know, it's not exactly the most, fun and exciting topic, and it seems that a lot of conservatives have been decreeing that a convention of states is the only way to get things done. And I'm here to tell you that although a convention of states is important, the chances of one being convened are 0 to none, because first of all, you're asking for so many states to agree on something where there is a plausible process to implement amendments that have already been imposed. And if you take a look at the 27 amendments we currently have, none of them were done through Convention of States, and Convention of States is kind of like break in case of an emergency. It's the nuclear button, so to speak. And the lady that was on, Marine Corps, seems nice. This is her world, and she is very much into COS and is advocating for it. I think she's a chapter delegate or something to that effect, and that's fine. I am a little bit of a dilettante. I don't believe that to be overspecified in one topic is bountiful and fruitful for this type of show. I need to be versed in many different topics and many different things. So she certainly may well know more than me, but the Constitution happens to be my backyard. So I just simply said it's dangerous, and she didn't agree. And I said, well, you failed to make any points to show me how it's not dangerous. You've told me, oh, this is what it will do, and this, but you haven't shown me any bylaws or any provisions that are in the Constitution that state this is how a convention of states is to be ran. We understand how to get there. That's the easy part, even though you say it's hard. The hard part is to get 50 states to agree on the laws of what takes place, the rules, the regulations, the processes once a convention of states is decided that it's necessary, and those things aren't written. Now, you can use precedent, but somebody has to go through that. You simply can't say, well, there's a case law from 1926 that says this. Well, that has to be discerned, decided, and agreed upon. So before we say, let's go ahead and use the nuclear option of opening up the Constitution for change, maybe we should have some laws in place before we do so, because there aren't any on the books. Anyway, we'll talk about the Convention of States. I know Leroy and I will probably talk about the sub and bring Olivia into that. Olivia, did you have anything you wanted to bring up tonight?
I did not have a chance to look into anything. I was busy all day. Sorry.
That's fine. I mean, tonight is really an open forum. Bring your topics. We're not going to bring up any of the slides, and we're not going to go ahead and bring up the thought patterns of all the different topics and everything. Tonight is really just all of us just having a conversation. So if you want to call into the show, here it is. The nice lady that I was talking to on Facebook did not have the ability to come on tonight, which I'm like, well, you're in a conversation with me. I'm not sure why you can't come on, but she can't. So we'll talk about this. We'll have a conversation. If you have anything that you want to talk about, just do a big all caps Olivia and then write your question. We'll go from there.
There's some
Sound good, everybody?
comments. There's some interesting comments from the dummies already. There's Thomas Austin has an interesting question. And it says, if the Wagner Group mercenaries go into Moscow and go after the military leadership, do you think anyone would be stupid enough to hit the big red button marked USA?
You want to take a stab at that? Because I don't mind taking a stab at that too.
You go first.
So there are rumors that there is a civil war, that Russia is on the cusp of a civil war. That there is a 25 to 26,000 sized force that is looking to perform a coup d'etat and a military overthrow of leadership inside of Russia. This is a militant group. This is what I predicted, and I think Leroy both predicted, that the overall conclusion of the Ukraine and Russian war would be attrition would finally get insurmountable to the Russian people. They would be sick of dying. They would be sick of being hungry. They would be sick of the strong arm of Putin and the censorship, and they would revolt and overthrow Putin. And then we would be in a state of de facto non-government persona non grata, I guess is what we would say. And we would have to wait to see who is put into power, whether it be a military leadership like Russia has done in the past, and that seems to be Russia's MO. Generals that nobody knows about, CIA doesn't know about, really literally no names, and drop off Khrushchev, Yeltsin, Gorbachev, all were no names and not predicted in any way, shape, or form by the FBI to take over power in Russia. And they were literally 7th or 8th possible choices. So we'll see if that continues. But ultimately, if this is the thing we need to understand, is that if the Russian military, if it's in the news and you think Russia is not rounding these people up and taking the most prominent figures and literally throwing them into the gulag or assassinating them, you're crazy. If the news knows about this and the world news knows about this, Putin knew about this a long time ago, and there'll be efforts to overthrow. A really strong coup d'etat or civil war is cloaked in secrecy. And if it's known to us, it's most assuredly known by the current standing forces, the generals, and Putin. And that doesn't give me big hopes of this actually happening. As far as the big red button, and I know Leroy's taken some notes, as far as the big red button, there are multiple fail-safes that one person cannot launch nuclear weapons. And I do not see Russia launching nuclear weapons or Putin being influential enough in that state to order that to happen and anyone to fulfill that order. The redundancies are in place for a reason. And although the football, as we call it, might be in his possession, it takes multiple redundancies to let loose the dogs of war from an apocalyptic standpoint. So I'm not overly concerned about that. Would he use them on his own soil? Yes, I believe he would. Would he use them in Ukraine? Yes, I believe he would. That would be more of a concern for me more than the United States. Because if he does do that, Russia will be literally glowing in the dark for the next 100 years. But every single country will destroy Russia. They have no survival rate. There is zero survival rate if they have an unprovoked attack on U.S. soil. Everybody in the world, including China, will nuke Russia. It would be devastating for Russia to do so. So I don't anticipate it happening. Leroy,
I could see a situation where China would actually advocate against that, only because they're downwind. But that being said, in terms of, do I think that anybody from the Wagner Group or any separatist type parties within the group would go in and try and look for the button to nuke the United States? No, I don't. Now, I will say this. Historically speaking, and this holds true for the last 10 wars that Russia has been involved with, they don't pull out until they've lost something like 500,000 men. To date, in Ukraine, at best guess, we can say that Russia has lost about 120,000 men. So, with that being said, right, I think everyone should get into this mindset that this could be something over a very protracted period of time. Now, what makes these threats then from Wagner Group, or these criticisms of the current political party, different than in times past? Well, if you're talking about the loss of potentially 500,000 people, right? And Russia sees this tactic. They're part of their SOP moving forward was they would issue, one gun to 3 people, and the guy in the front got the gun. And when that guy, they just planned for it. They said, when that guy gets shot, the guy behind him picks up the gun. And then when that guy gets shot, the last guy in line. So, and that's how they did things, folks. They threw just unbelievable manpower at something, which is why you could see numbers like 500,000 people. Now, why is that different today? Because 50, 80, 100 years ago, they had people to spare. The demographics of today are very different. And Russia is a dying country. By 2030, as a population, they will dip below 100 million people. A lot of people don't know that. So what that means is that, when you're willing to risk a significantly increasing percentage of your people to the loss of war for what? What does anybody know why Putin is doing this? I mean, I do, but I think a lot of people that reside within Russia don't understand it and they don't agree with it.
And they're being told something different than what it actually is. Time out. They're being told also the reason why they don't understand isn't ignorance. It's simply because they're being told it's for a completely different reason than what's actually happening. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're fine. What the hell was I saying? See, I got in these rants. That's how it works.
Well, that's why I try to pull you back, because you say things that are really good, but it needs context. So you were talking about the reason why the populace doesn't understand why they're...
So they get, they get told any one of a number of reasons as far as why they're heading into war, right? But everyone sees that, oh my God, my sons are dying, my family's dying,
right?
My nephews are dying, and they understand that. And so when you have somebody as prominent as the Wagner Group saying, look, we don't agree with what's happening right now, that's a problem. But do I think that somebody from within the Wagner Group or from within the Russian military is going to go in and look for the buttons that all say USA? No, I don't.
No. And understand, civil war is not led by a military force. Civil war is led by the people. So if you still control the people, then you control the country, because that's military doesn't create anything. Military doesn't go out and work the 9-to-5s. It's the people. So if the Russian people aren't up in arms against Russia, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take a large portion of those 100 million people to rise up, and you're going to have a force of 1 million or 2 in order to go ahead and do this. So I don't see it being that. I think Russia has been through more situations than this that are a hell of a lot more dire. But as Leroy says, they could always look forward to the springtime. They could always look forward to the summertime. But the yields of food and wheat and the overall productivity of Russia as a country, when you literally send hundreds of thousands to war, is something has to suffer. And their overall robust ability to feed their country is going to suffer. And Ukraine is going to suffer. And more importantly, Africa is going to suffer, as Leroy and I have talked about many times, with food depravity and food shortages will ultimately create large continents of hunger. Russia is not going to be oblivious to this, and neither is Ukraine when it comes to feeding their people. So hungry people tend to be grumpy people, and grumpy people tend to revolt. So I think Putin he's fighting a war on many fronts. He's fighting a war on many fronts.
Yes, he is.
Okay. From the Kremlin personnel, the problem is that you can have personnel revolt. No, I do not believe anyone is going to launch nuclear weapons in the United States in any way, shape, or form, or in any way, facet.
No,
why?
It's not going to happen.
Why? I mean, what's the end game? People don't want to. No, I don't foresee that happening in any way, shape, or form. Even if Putin is, he's pulling a con and I spit my last breath at thee. And he's sitting there with the Genesis system. He's not going to.
Once more into the breach, dear friends.
Friends. He wanted to take out Kirk. He wasn't trying to end existence. If Putin is going to take out anybody, it's going to be Ukraine. So if that at all. So no, I don't agree. But it doesn't mean that I'm right. I mean, if all of a sudden we start glowing at 3,200 degrees Fahrenheit, I'll apologize. But until then,
I
no,
fucked up.
Whoopsie.
Sorry.
This will be the last show. We have more things to worry about. Just to take us down? No, because we're not Russia's biggest enemy. Why would it be us? Why would Russia decide to take us out?
Right.
I mean, suffice it to say that Russia should be just as mad at China as the United States. They should be just as upset with Poland and Sweden and Finland and the NATO countries over us. We're doing what we've always done. We're doing what's in our best interest to proxy a war. We proxied Afghanistan against them for 22 years, and they didn't nuke us. I mean, we literally created the insurgencies in Afghanistan with CIA through Greece, and the reason why Afghanistan held off Russia for 22 some odd years was because of the United States, and they didn't nuke us then. We're not doing anything that Russia hasn't done in Syria and Crimea, in other countries. They've been supplying Iran with arms and literally has been disrupting the Middle East and funding the war against the Jews. And we haven't nuked Russia. Proxy wars are nothing new. They've been happening since Alexander the Great. The Moors and the Saxons ran proxy. The French has supplied arms to the United States during the American Revolution. I don't know what to tell you. I think people are overreacting. Now, if Poland takes a stray artillery shell, okay, then we might have a different story. But as of right now, no, I don't. Leroy, go ahead.
You know, you raise a really good point in that a hungry people are an agitated and ornery group. What does that look like geopolitically in terms of the next, 5 years throughout Central Africa? Right, when these people are not being fed, what do we think that we're going to have more or less skirmishes there? Do we think that we're going to see sporadic battles throughout the continent because of the fact that people are having to skip breakfast, lunch, and dinner? I think that there's going to be more trouble on the horizon, specifically in those areas that are lacking in food. Just a thought.
Well, some people are saying that Africa is not experiencing food shortages because Putin is sending them grain. Tell that to Somalia. Tell that to Ethiopia. Tell that to Kenya, because they are all suffering from massive shortages in food right now. All of them. And yeah, they didn't get the message. So it doesn't matter how much Putin says is that he is roughly looking at 23 to 24% lower productivity from previous year because of this war, because of potash, because of fertilizer, because of lack of irrigation that's happening because of the ice melt in Russia, and lack of fresh water for irrigation of crops. How can he maintain the level of wheat production when the number one and number 4 overall wheat producing countries in Ukraine and Russia are having 24 to 26% reduction in their overall yield of productivity? You can't. So of course Africa is going to feel that. Go ahead, Leroy.
I read something the other day about that suggested that between potash and modern day fertilizers, which are all made from natural gas, that they provide for 4 times the amount of agricultural output on the same acre of land. So it's not that these people are getting, to Matt's point, they can expect a huge drop in productivity. And it's not that they're getting no fertilizers or potash. But let's just, for that example, let's say they weren't. Then that production would drop off by 75%. Could you imagine? In a time where Africa is hitting peak demographic numbers, the most men and women it's ever had, to have that as a potential threat. Yeah.
So interesting. Brian Balk says, I think China will jump in more than they have been in Africa. Africa will rely more on China for infrastructure and other support. This may create tensions between China and Russia. It's interesting, Brian, because I think everyone on the show remembers that I said the point of contention, similar to the Middle East in the 80s and 90s, similar to Cuba, South America in the 60s and 70s and 80s, and Turkey, Africa will be literally the new flame point for all major world powers. And so I agree with you 120%. Africa is the richest in minerals, in exports. It is a self-sustaining country that is underdeveloped, and it is prime for the picking for a superpower to go in there and start making impact. And there is a reason why the United States is involved in Africa, why we have, supposedly have a few bases there. I mean, I guess. But the United States.
I'm pretty sure Brian knows that one firsthand.
Yeah, the United States. You know Brian personally?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Brian, Brian. First of all, Leroy, thanks a lot. You should have shut me up. And I hate preaching to people who are in the know, and I'm not going to anymore. So that's it. You have to tell me these things, bro. If I have a buddy come in here, I'm going to tell you.
He's been on the show before.
Is it Balk?
Balch, yeah.
Balch or Balk?
Balch.
Balch.
CH. Yeah.
Okay, Balch.
Good dude.
CH
Really
can make a k sound too. Did we have this conversation last time?
I think we did.
But see, here's the thing: is that you can't expect me to remember everybody. But yeah, ultimately, Africa is going to be a hotbed for the next 2 generations. So I mean, of course, you could go ahead and take the conspiracy theorists that say that it's going to be Antarctica because we have secret bases up there, and the Third Reich left Germany, and they have secret Nazi bases up there. But those people are batshit crazy, so it's going to be Africa. All right, now that we've established that,
all right.
So sorry once again. Warn me if somebody comes in. So he goes, yes, ha ha ha. So he knows. Okay, I think I do remember this guy last time, and I think I did call him Balk. I don't know why. I don't know why the LCH is Balk. Because Welsh is WELCH. Where's the CH where CH is K? Is that Irish? Or is it Czech? No, because Czech is C. I'm asking you to help me here, Leroy, in all your extensive knowledge. Which language would CH have a K? Well,
what country was Bach from?
Bach
I will say this.
Austrian?
When I
there you go.
first introduced,
what is Bach?
When we were first introduced to each other, he said the pronunciation of his name, and I never questioned it since then. So,
yeah, I don't care about that.
Never
I'm trying to
figure.
I don't really. Well, I thought you knew him personally.
I know. I do.
No, Bach was German, so maybe that's where it's
There
from.
you go.
Bach was German. Yeah, so Austrian, German, close enough.
German.
Bach?
Balch.
I didn't say he was German.
That guy sounds like he could write a song.
You're not listening to me. I don't care. Whatever. You're just like a woman. We might as well be married. You don't even listen to what I'm saying. I didn't say he was German. I asked you which language CH has a K sound. That's all I'm asking.
I don't know.
I know, but I'm just telling you. It was fucking Bach. German. He's German. Lord. Do we need a timeout? We need to sing happy birthday for Angel. So in order to stop the argumentation that's happening here, I think you should sing.
Argumentation?
Yeah, it's an argumentation that's currently in process.
Got it.
All right.
Just like dictation.
Got it.
Just like masturbation.
I know what's on your mind.
To have you dictate to me while I'm masturbating? Yes. I think it's ooh, ah, go harder. Wait. Oh, hard. Do the sound.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, do this real quick, and then
we'll harder.
Oh yeah, harder. Oh God, that was so good. Now I'm gonna stuff my fucking face with Pepperidge Farm.
What? Close the door. We're doing a show. What do you want? This is 2 times in a row. What is going on? What do you want?
What, buddy?
Get out of the room. Get out of here.
I think they miss me.
I'm sure they miss you. We'll see you guys in a few. We're not going to have a super long show. So, Leroy, happy birthday to Angel, please.
All right. Happy birthday to Angel. And do we want to give her some tunes?
You're going to sing it.
Happy birthday to you.
To you.
Happy birthday to you.
To you,
Happy
Olivia. Well, hold on, time out.
birthday,
Whoa. Stop.
Let's get Hayden in here. She can sing it.
Stop. Olivia,
What?
you have to get involved. Are you ready?
No.
You have to get involved. You're the only one that can sing here. So I'll do the first To You, and then you jump in and do the next one. All right, start over. Leroy, go.
Wait, we're doing 3 2 years?
All right.
Just let him. Just feel
I
the
think
flow.
I get it. I think I get it.
Yeah, I know you get it.
Happy birthday
To you. No, you're not supposed to. See, you're supposed to shut up, Leroy, and let me do it. Try it one more time. Here we go, Leroy. 1, 2. Just, dude. We have to all be involved to do it right.
I will be involved at the end. Just say
No,
it.
you're not. You're gonna do one. You're gonna do it To You. So Leroy, go.
Damn it, Cooley on 3. Lethal Weapon reference there, folks.
Dude, I had it, and he used his freaking nightstick. Dude, you don't have to freaking tell me. Happy birthday, go.
Happy birthday
To you. Go, Leroy.
Happy birthday
To you.
Happy birthday.
All of us. Dear angel.
Happy birthday.
All of us.
To
you.
Chocolate.
Did you see how good? Seriously, can I get some applause there? Did you see how well orchestrated that was, folks? It's not hard. Can I get some applause, please?
Going. Only took us a while.
So good. That was well done. We could watch that in post, and I'm telling you, that is going to be a hit. It's going to be a hit. I'm absolutely going to cut that. Yeah, Angel, happy birthday from all of us to you. Thank you.
Angel.
Absolutely. Utah's here. Utah hasn't been around. Oh my God, you guys haven't gotten any notifications. Love and miss you. Oh my God, it's not like it's a mystery when we're on 8 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Come on, Utah. What the heck? Matt, thanks for getting polos on the store. I just ordered one a few minutes. Scott, I saw that. No problem, buddy. Anything you want, let me know. All right. So listen, any other comments that we need to be aware of, Olivia?
No, not yet.
That's it?
Yeah, somebody said we need to talk about pot pie at the very beginning.
Why are we talking about pot pie?
Because you said throw out some conversation topics.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
So everybody, if you have a topic of conversation, let us know. It's Friday night. We've got 120 on. That's actually pretty damn good. So let's get into this. Conventions of states. And I don't want to make this a history lesson, but I want people to understand. See, I thought it was amazing too. Amy knows. Amy's like, that was amazing. It sounded great. I'm telling you, I listened to it. No, the show is not moved to Thursday. Listen, folks, when I'm syndicated, I will have a schedule that's really locked in. Until then, no. I mean, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We didn't come Wednesday. We're here Thursday. We're here Friday. It's sporadic, but all you got to do is check at 8 o'clock. And if we're on, we're on. If we're not, we're not. But notifications, don't rely on Facebook to tell you. Convention of States, also known as Article 5. Convention or Constitutional Convention. It's a process outlined in Article 5 of the United States Constitution that allows for amendments to be proposed by Convention of State delegates. Now, here's the thing. I've taken some notes on this, and I want to make sure everyone had all the detail. Because I've been asked, I can't even tell you, probably this is the number one request that I've been asked for, is to talk about this in detail. While some argue that a convention of states could provide a means for addressing issues and enacting meaningful change, there are several compelling reasons to argue against it. Okay, everyone now knows what it is, and here they are. Potential for unintended consequence. Calling a convention of states opens a door to potentially significant changes in the Constitution. There is a risk that delegates may propose amendments that undermine the fundamental principles and protections enshrined in the Constitution. It's difficult to predict the outcome of such a convention, and the potential for unintended consequences is a legitimate concern. And here's why. Because there are no specific rules and regulations of how the Convention of States is supposed to be proposed. There are definitely indications in the Constitution under Article 5 that explain what is necessary to call a convention, but not necessarily the processes. And that is the problem, is it's never happened before. So you'll be having to go over precedent, and it would be an amalgamation of several different processes that have been handled in the 4 ways that you can propose an amendment right now that we actually have done, which I'll go over in a second. Lack of clear rules and procedures is what I referred to, and here they are. Article 5 provides minimal guidance on the specifics of how a convention of states would operate. There are no established rules or procedures for selecting delegates, determining voting mechanisms, or setting limits on the scope of amendments that can be proposed. This lack of clarity could lead to confusion, disputes, and ultimately a compromise process. Influence of special interests, considering that you have a very big conundrum that wasn't around, which is Citizens United, which allows corporations to have a vote, but also more importantly, that money is speech. So you can have special interest groups and political action committees get involved in this as well, because there's nothing barring them from doing so. Do you understand? Two-thirds majority cannot change. Two-thirds majority can propose, but three-quarters is required to change an amendment. And that is also a crux. 38 states out of 50. We'll go into that. Stop jumping ahead, Angel. Just because it's your birthday doesn't mean you get special treatment over here in this mofo.
Wow.
Yeah, let's kind of put that one to bed. Determining voting mechanisms, setting limits, etc. The lack of clarity could lead to confusion, disputes, and ultimately a compromise process, or a stalwart or a stall in legislation being proposed, and ultimately could hold the Congress hostage. It's okay, Angel. Don't worry about it. I was teasing. I know Angel was responding, so I was teasing his joke. Folks, I can't... Amy... You know better. I can't see that. Influence of special interests. Here's the big one. A convention of states would likely attract the attention of various special interest groups seeking to advance their own agendas. The influence of powerful interest groups and lobbyists could unduly shape the direction and outcome of the convention, potentially undermining the democratic principles that should guide constitutional changes. Okay? Here's another one. Threats to existing constitutional safeguards. The existing process for amending the Constitution through Congress has served as a reliable safeguard against hasty and ill-considered changes. By bypassing this process and convening a convention of states, there's a risk of undermining the checks and balances that have been built into the Constitution to protect against tyranny of the majority and ensure thoughtful deliberation from the minority. Everyone understand? Good. Potential for political polarization. The current political climate in the United States is characterized by deep divisions and polarization. Convening a convention of states in such an environment could exacerbate these divisions and lead to further gridlock. It may become a platform for partisan battles rather than genuine opportunity for meaningful reform. These are mine. I'm giving you my assessment of a convention of states and my arguments about why I believe there could be challenges. I happen to believe that a convention of states may be a good thing, but it is an emergency case. Alternative avenues for constitutional change. The Constitution already provides a well-established and democratic process for amending itself through Congress, and it is a democratic process, unfortunately. You may not like to hear that, but it is. A democratic process and democracy are two different things. Utilizing the existing mechanism ensures stability and consistency in amending the Constitution. So here it is in writing. This is from Article 5, and it's from this little beautiful book. You can get these on Amazon. They're about $9 a piece. The Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence, all right here. You can get these on Amazon. I thought about buying these and putting them on my site, but I would charge 40% more. I'm not going to do that. The Congress, whenever two-thirds of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to the Constitution, or on the application of the legislature of the two-thirds of the several states, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which, in either case, shall be valid to all intents and purposes. As part of this Constitution, when ratified by the legislatures of the 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress. What that's simply saying is the states can go ahead and agree with this majority to have representatives outside of the legislature, and the elected representative have delegates represent the interests of the people when, essentially, the government doesn't get their shit done. Provided that no amendment which may be made prior to the year 1808 shall in any manner affect at first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the Senate, which ultimately means that the state is one vote per state. How delegates to the convention should be chosen is the number one biggest hurdle that we face. So how are delegates to the convention, how should they be chosen? Who gets to go?
Right.
2, whether Congress, state legislatures, or the delegates should set rules or procedure for the convention. That's my second biggest argument. 3rd, the vote threshold required to propose an amendment in convention. What does it mean? And what are the thresholds? And 4, how voting rights on a proposed amendment should be apportioned among the states. Is it simply one vote per state? Is it more like the Senate, where there'll be 2 votes per state? Is it more like the state legislature? Is it based on population? Is it based on economic contribution? If this is something that has to do with limits on overall laws through the SCOTUS, okay, so do we base it upon the amount of district judges? Do we base it on the size of the circuit court? Do we base it upon the size of the appellate court? Do we base it on the size of the amount of cases per state? What do you base it on? Do you see the conundrum? Do you see the situation? Just to have a convention of states, it would be so insurmountably large to get an agreement from these states based upon what are simply the qualifications to have those delegates, and how do we vote on it? What do you base it on? Okay, so you finally agree on putting 9 judges in place and never expanding the court. Great, let's move on to something else. Let's move on to abortions. Should it be based on race? Should it be based on overall dollar value that the federal government funds these clinics? Should it be based upon religious density in the area? Should it be based on age?
Right.
Should it be based on the overall medical cases that are in the rural areas that have more complications with birth? Or should it be based upon the areas like New York, Florida, Texas, and California that have a higher rate of birth because of their advanced hospitals and medicinal knowledge? Who knows? So what I'm trying to convey to you is that it's very, very complicated when we have a process right now that is fairly simplistic. Whether it works or not, that is the question. And here it is. And then I'm done. Here are the 4 ways. A lot of people say there's only 2 ways to propose amendment: convention of states and through the legislature. That's not true at all. Actually, there's 4. And here they are. Proposal by 2/3 of each house of Congress, followed by ratification by popular conventions in each state. This method was used to adopt the 21st Amendment, repealing prohibition. Okay? It's already been done. 2, proposal by 2/3 of each house of Congress, then ratified by state legislatures. The method was used for the other amendments, other 26 amendments. 3, proposal of a convention for proposing amendments, then ratification by popular conventions in each state. Hasn't been tried. Number 4, proposal by a convention for proposing amendments, then ratification by the state legislature. Also hasn't been done. So what we're saying is, and the biggest bone of contention and argument that I have on this whole thing is, if you're saying we need to convene a convention of states with 3/4 of the states agreeing upon changing amendment, you can't even propose a new amendment like Roe v. Wade and codify that with our current state and system, which is the 2/3 majority. And you think that you're going to get more than 60% of the House or Congress to agree on anything like this?
Right.
This is why
Exactly.
the federal mandate purpose works. This is why we have the 10th Amendment, is to kick it back to the states in order for the states to decide what is best for their constituents. The moment that you're asking for a federal mandate, the only way to do that is to have all the states agree, and it currently happens. This is why marijuana legalization ultimately will pass, is because finally the states will overall agree from a majority, and then we can codify it. This is how other things have taken place and been found to be unconstitutional, like the Obamacare mandate or college tuition, which is probably 2 weeks away from finding out if Joe Biden is going to lose again. There are things in place right now that have worked. What you're frustrated by is you want legislators and Congress and senators to no longer have the power, and you want to propose legislators who are not elected but are actually provided by each state, where there is no due process of having an election to represent the people. So all the people, how do we guarantee that they're represented? You can't. I'm going to open this up to conversation. It is a very big topic. I went ahead and explained my position on this. Do I believe that it's necessary? Yes. Do I believe it's been done before? No. Should it be done? Not without some very, very specific rules and regulations on how it will be conducted. Otherwise, you open up the opportunity that if it's opened up for one, it opens up for all. We have nothing that says that that isn't the case. Leroy, Olivia, would love your questions.
Olivia?
To be honest, I heard you talking about this before the show, and I just listened intently now, and it all went over my head, and I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't understand.
Okay.
That.
It's fine. It's fine.
So.
Keep it simple. That's fine. Just say that and move on. Okay. Leroy, go ahead.
Well, at what point does a convention of states then become counterproductive? Convention of states, in essence, right, if what we're talking about is it was 3/4 of several states, or you said 2/3 of. I'm trying to remember what you said.
To propose an amendment, it's required a 2/3 majority, which is a simple majority of 60%. To remove an amendment or change an amendment, it's required to have 3/4 of the states, which would be 38 out of the current 50.
Okay. So when we're talking about that, I mean, in essence, it's almost like, and I understand the argument behind prohibition. Like, I have no idea how the hell, what the marketing campaign must have looked like for that, for someone to say, hey, let's get rid of booze.
Let's stop having fun.
Right. So I can understand that one. At what point does it become counterproductive, though? In other words, at what point are we introducing new bills that erode away at the first 10, which are known as the Bill of Rights? And I think that's a key tool, shall we say, that would be taken advantage of by the people on the far left. Now, what I mean by that is the typical libertarian or the typical Republicans, they kind of want to honor the current standing for everything that's written in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And it's only from the far left that we really find the groups of people that want to change things, the liberal people, the people that want things to evolve or to give more centralized authority to the government. And the only way they can do that is by introducing what Matt is talking about here. And that can either be done, at a local level, but what we're speaking about tonight in terms of convention of states is at a federal level. And I think that's dangerous. And I don't mean it can be done benevolently, absolutely. But I think there's also the opportunity that it can be taken advantage of, correct? And I think that's the tight line that has to be walked. Now, while Matt was...
Wait a second, time out. Wait, time out. Carrie, here we go. Carrie, this is why we get in arguments. She goes, I agree with Leroy. Convention could be a mistake.
It could be.
I just said that. Why can't you just say I agree with Matt and Leroy, Carrie? You always do this shit to me. I'm the one that said it could be a mistake. I'm the one that's fighting it and telling people do not do a convention of states. And you're like, oh, I agree with Leroy. I don't understand.
See how this works, Matt? See how this works?
It's bullshit.
Anyway.
It's like I have a second wife.
Now, while Matt was reading that, I went ahead and looked up something from Federalist 45, specifically written by James Madison, who said that the powers of Congress as few and defined, but the powers to the states are as numerous and indefinite. So it's pretty well obvious that the spirit of the Constitution and the spirit of the Bill of Rights and everything that's when people seek to change it, the original intent for the thing is to keep the federal powers as limited as humanly possible and to keep the powers at the state level as unlimited as humanly possible. Correct. In other words, the states are really supposed to have more power than the Fed.
Hold on. Now, I want to now hold the thought, because you just are talking about the 10th Amendment and should have more power than the federal government, which I completely agree. Okay, now, this is what's okay. You want to let's see if Leroy and I can agree, and we all can agree here, because we both agree that it's very dangerous to open up a convention of states, because we have to. You're assuming positive intent from the other side. Now, with the minority vote, those 13 can dissent for the Convention of States. And if you think it's going to be 38 states are all going to be in agreement, that's insanity. At the very best, when we were talking about distribution, I think we had like a 32 to 18 majority against the states. That was in the most optimal, and that was during Reagan, okay? You're not going to get that again. You are not. There's too much disparity in politics to see a super majority like that again. What are you doing, Hayden?
Looking for the cat.
Okay. So, but here's the thing. These are the things that I believe are needed, which would bring Leroy and I's points, and I think a lot of people's points. Because if you're sitting here and saying, okay, well, we need to limit the form of government, you're not. You're expanding the form of government by putting it in the hands of people who are not elected.
That's exactly my point.
That's what you're doing. You're not limiting the government. You're expanding it even more because you're giving the Fed the ultimate power to change the Constitution, which all they could say is, fine, well, we propose an amendment to go ahead and limit the 10th Amendment and to recede the 10th Amendment. And then the states got nothing. You're giving unfettered power and removing the people's ability to make those choices by having delegates who were never elected in the first place. That's the conundrum. So this is what we need. Here it is. Number one, how delegates to the convention should be chosen needs to be established. How do we choose these delegates? Number one. Number two, whether Congress, state legislature, or the delegate should set rules of procedure for the convention needs to be established. Number three, the vote threshold required to propose an amendment in convention needs to be established. And number four, how voting rights on a proposed amendment should be apportioned among the states. Beginning at least as early as the 1960s, members of Congress introduced various pieces of legislation that would seek to establish some procedures for Article 5 convention. But it's never been done because really it's a haphazard pull in case of emergency. Understand, when you pull that red lever, when you're saying that there's a fire, that's not a solution. What happens after you pull that lever is going to decide whether lives or the building or whatever is at risk is going to be saved. What you want to do is pull the emergency lever, and we don't know if the fire department's going to come. We don't know if people are actually going to throw gasoline on it. We don't know if people are going to try to urinate on it. We don't know if there's going to be fire hoses or some halon system is going to come out. You're pulling a lever, and you don't know what's going to happen because the rules of that universe have not been established. That's why a convention of state is dangerous. That's all I'm saying. You must establish those four things before it can be a warranted solution to the problems we're currently facing. How about we do this? How about we just ban political action committees, reverse Citizens United, and say that money is not speech and corporations are not people with inherent rights? How about we just do those four things, and then we can start getting term limits, reduce the size of government, balance the effing budget, and use the current system that we have right now. And the reason you can is because of those things I just mentioned. Leroy, go ahead.
I'm going to take a very different approach right now because I know that we're talking about the Convention of States, but I want to look at something in terms of the goal from an opposing point of view. And when I say opposing point of view, I don't mean in terms of liberty. I mean in terms of leftism, okay? And why they would want something like this. And I'm going to read this to you. And these are listed as the five steps to communism. Number one is to divide the people. Do we see that happening currently?
Yes, we do. Do we have a ding? Do we have a ding? Do we have a bell? Do we have a bell? Do we have something? Hold on. We're finding something for you. Yes, that would be a yes.
That's the only bell I have.
We have a buzzer.
Like the yes. It's like I feel like Rocky right there. All right, number two. So we have number one, which is to divide the people. Number two is to create the appearance of popular support. Do we have that?
Yes.
Yes,
the majority has the loudest of the voice. Go ahead, Liv.
Oh, I'm supposed to.
That's the bell, Liv.
The bell.
Pay attention, Olivia.
You gotta give me the ding, lady.
Lady.
Number three is.
I'll give you the ding and the dong. I'll give you the ding and the dong.
Number three is to neutralize the opposition. Now, that's where I see this convention of states.
That's the current stage.
That exactly my point. That could be the final nail in the coffin for liberty to say this is how we get rid of it, right? Because there are two other steps, and I'm going to go ahead and read those to you. You don't need to give me the bell. But number four is to precipitate mob violence. We've seen that. we have seen all for 3 of the 4 years through Donald Trump's presidency, how there were mass riots in almost every major city in America, which was exactly that, the precipitation of mob violence. And the 5th step in the creation of communism is to create the semblance of a revolution. And we have a lot of that. What is even the symbol to the Black Lives Matter movement? It's that fist in the air, which is eerily reminiscent of
the Union of the Iron Workers of Communism and Socialist Party.
Exactly. So we can see all of these steps. We can see all of these steps prior laid out, and they don't necessarily have to happen in order. So when we're talking about neutralizing the opposition, that's where I see the danger in a convention of states if it's not done properly.
Now I'm going to tag team this. So Leroy and I are tag teaming this. Okay. So, and Olivia's just sitting here going, when will I shut up? When can we talk about something important?
Sorry, Liv.
It's coming to the bedroom soon. The Saul Alinsky playbook, which is what Hillary Clinton essentially did her thesis on, will explain this expand it even more. And this should send shivers up people's spine, because this is truly where we're moving to. This is progressivism and what they now call democratic socialism. And socialism has been labeled many different things over the decades. And they changed the name, but the move is still the same. And here's the Saul Alinsky playbook, which is it's kind of like the anarchist cookbook for people who want to destroy things. Well, this is really the Bible or the rules for radicals. Okay, Saul Alinsky playbook. Number 1, power is not only what you have, but what an opponent thinks you have. If your organization is small, hide your numbers in the dark and raise a din that will make everyone think you have many more people than you do. Rule number 2, never go outside the experience of your people. The result is confusion, fear, and retreat. Number 3, whenever possible, go outside the experience of an opponent. Here you want to cause confusion, fear, and retreat. Rule number 4, make opponents live up to their own book of rules. You can kill them with this, for they can no more obey their own rules than the Christian church can live up to Christianity. Rule number 5, ridicule is man's most potent weapon. It's hard to counterattack ridicule, and it infuriates the opposition, which then reacts to your advantage. Rule 6, a good tactic is one of your people enjoy. If your people aren't having a ball doing it, there is something very wrong with the tactic. Rule number 7, a tactic that drags on for too long becomes a drag. Commitment may become ritualistic as people turn to other issues. Rule number 8, keep the pressure on. Use different tactics and actions. Use all events of the period for your purpose. The major premise for tactics is the development of operations that will maintain a constant pressure upon the opposition. It is this that will cause the opposition to react to your advantage. If people don't think this is the Hillary Clinton playbook, you're not paying attention. Rule 9, the threat is more terrifying than the thing itself. When Alinsky leaked word that large numbers of poor people were going to tie up the washrooms of O'Hare Airport, Chicago city authorities quickly agreed to act on the long-standing commitment to a ghetto organization. They imagined the mayhem as thousands of passengers poured off airplanes to discover every washroom was occupied. Then they imagined the international embarrassment and the damage to the city's reputation and decided to use the strong arm of law in order to circumvent people's rights willingly. Rule 10, the price of a successful attack is a constructive alternative. Avoid being trapped by an opponent or an interviewer who says, okay, what would you do? Number 11, pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, polarize it. Don't try to attack abstract corporations or bureaucracies. Identify a responsible individual. Ignore attempts to shift or spread the blame to those who deserve it, but to the ones who are easy targets. The main job of the organizer is to bait an opponent into reacting. The enemy, properly goaded and guided in his reaction, will be your major strength. Those are the Saul Alinsky playbooks. Merry Christmas.
Can I add something to that?
No.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Rhonda says something and then Leroy gets to go. See, I disagree with Archimedes. He says pi r squared. Everyone knows pi r round with or without a top crust.
The pie conversation.
The pie
has come
conversation.
back.
Pie
It
is
was Amy had the perfect.
it's not
comment.
pie unless it has top crust.
Amy had the
Go
perfect
ahead.
comment.
What did she say? Oh, I heard her.
I thought I saw you laughing. It was
Oh,
hilarious.
I read it. Okay, go ahead, Leroy.
What I was going to say was that's why you see so many angry people on the left. I think the common thread there is anger and rage, and what that does is it causes people to want to demand change. Right? When someone becomes inflamed about any topic, they want to see change. Make that happen. Make it better. Make it more like what I consider to be correct in my moral standard world, right? But what the Constitution does, and what the separation of powers does for us, is it slows all of that down. It locks everything up in the red tape of government, so that mob rule can't happen so fast, right? It slows everything down. Everyone seems to, I mean, the Democrats certainly love the idea of mob rule, but I would say, going back to the Constitution, that if everyone reads, and I highly encourage all of the dummies to please look this up, double check me. I'm going to read it verbatim, but I want everyone to understand what I'm about to read them. Under Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government, and shall protect each of them against invasion and on application of the legislator, blah, 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 blah. So that's not in reference to a political party, but it is speaking to the form of government. And what that means is that it's the opposite of mob rule. So the entire point is to stop these reactionary changes that a mob rule would want to make to the Constitution and slow all of that crap down. That's all I have.
So a lot of people ask the question the following, and I think it makes a good point, because then you say, well, Matt, then why don't the Democrats want that? Why don't they want a convention of states?
The president invited his son Hunter.
Why don't they want a convention of states? It's not that Democrats don't want a convention of states. It's not that they do want a convention of state. It's that there is no causation. There's no benefit for them to allow or disallow a convention of states, because Democrats have the majority. Whether you want to agree with this or not, it is harder and harder from the Electoral College to have a Republican president. And if you look throughout history, it's not that people necessarily want a Democrat president. It's that certain states, it is very hard for a Republican president to find a path to victory through the Electoral College. And why the Democrats want to ban the Electoral College is because there is hope that a Republican can win. There is no path to victory in any way, shape, or form for for them to win the popular vote. A Republican has barely any chance to win the popular vote. And the reason why is because there's more Democrats than there are Republicans, and that's the way it works. Whether you want to agree with that or not, that's the way of registered voters. About 52% are Republican, about 48%, scratch that, 48% are Republican, 52% are Democrat. And that's the way it is. And the younger generation ultimately is always going to be more focused on being Democrat. And the older generation is going to be more focused on being Republican and conservative. And that's the way it is. Why? Because people don't give a crap about having, when they're older, about losing the things that they've worked so hard to have. And younger people have nothing, and they don't care. And so they want more government. And then they realize when they're 35, 40 years old, they have got a full family, they got a house, they got tuition, they got taxes, they got property, and they go, holy crap, I don't like big government. I don't want government in my life. And most Democrats become Republicans, or at least moderate. Or Democrats.
I've actually seen that story before. I've seen that cited before, where it's as people get older, they become more conservative. And that's where that classic, okay, boomer type, attack on old people comes from. That's where that whole thing originated from, the get off my lawn type. Like,
right.
and people don't realize it, but if you look at the demographics of today, there's way less young people, right, by comparison to, like, say, the boomer generation, which is the largest generation this country has ever seen. And if that's the generation that is becoming more and more conservative,
yep,
there is a fighting chance there.
I've got a Saul Alinsky guy in here already. I've got a Democrat who's trying to change the topic because he doesn't want to have a conversation about facts. Tim Thuring says Republicans have no chance with convicted sexual offenders like Trump. First of all, what you're saying is slander. Trump has not been convicted of sexual offense. He hasn't been convicted of rape. He hasn't been convicted of anything. This was a civil court. So your entire accusation is a lie. Now, did he do something wrong? Well, according to actual non-civil court, which would be a criminal court, nobody would take the case. In fact, several prosecutors dropped the case. New York looked at this, and Bragg dropped it from a prosecutorial standpoint from a criminal charge. So your entire comment is null and void. Before you have even begun, you have already lost. So if you want to go ahead and say that a civil trial assigns guilt from a criminal standpoint, then you are just going ahead and proving my point that liberals do not care about the rule of law and ultimately believe that opinion assigns guilt. And you don't believe in the Constitution of the United States, and you don't believe in innocent until proven guilty, because that means anyone who civilly wins in court against you and sues you from a defamation standpoint or gets a sum of money because you decide to settle because the cost of fighting it is a lot more expensive than just paying you, that assigns guilt, then your ideals of what true law is in the United States is completely kerfuckled. And backward.
Tim Thuring, is it? That's who said that?
I don't know.
Republicans have no chance with a convicted sexual offender like Trump. I'll tell you what, that's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Yes.
And I'll tell you why. The whole argument rests on the idea that everyone else in politics are somehow clean. And we know that to not be true. Cory Booker admitted to groping a person in college. There are several people on the left. Let's not, forget anything that the Clintons had ever done or the Kennedys. It's not like sexual, acts don't exist on the left as well. And so the whole point for the argument is to make it emotional rather than treat everyone equally. And somehow Tim, let me see if I get your argument right. Okay. You're saying we can't trust the Republicans. We can't trust Trump. Right? Well, can we trust anybody on the left either? And if we can't, then why the hell why would I vote in a manner which would give them more centralized authority over me? That makes no sense. None whatsoever.
And not only that, so what you're saying, Tim, and to make sure I understand, is that you're from Australia, which I've been to Sydney, I've been to Perth, I've been to Brisbane. I love Australia. Well, used to. So one thing I do know about the history of Australia, it was a land full of criminals, and it was a penal colony for the English.
That's right.
That would take and drop all their criminals off who basically committed crimes against the crown. So what you're saying is because you're from Australia, and by association, simply, you're a criminal. Because that's what you're saying, is simply by association or simply because somebody says so, Donald Trump is a felon. Now, I notice you haven't stuck around like most people.
Oh, he's still talking.
Oh, is he? What is he
he's
saying?
still there.
What's he saying now?
Oh, he was just saying that
He's all over the place.
somebody said, "You're from Australia. What's it to you?" And he said, "Global Village" was his reply.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
And then
Global
he said,
Village.
Global Village.
So what you're saying by Global Village is what happens in the United States ultimately affects Australia. Outstanding. Thank you for admitting that the United States is a global leader. And ultimately, whatever happens here impacts you. So explain to me this. Why do you have COVID camps available? Why are they sending and taking people from the home in Australia during COVID and putting them and from their families and putting them into camps? Can you explain that to me? Why are you okay with that? Why are you okay, and why did you give up your guns willingly? Why did you allow Australia to be disarmed? Are you familiar with a little graphic that Leroy's probably looking right now to show you from 1901
asshole,
until
you know that?
today, what happened to disarmed populations? And when they did surrender their guns to socialism and social and progressive beliefs, what happened to those countries? And you know what's going to happen when your government is tyrannical and they do decide to go ahead and overthrow the people's voice? You're going to ask for the United States to come in there. And you know what we're going to do? We're going to say, we're sorry, we can't do that because we're a bunch of sexual offenders. Right. You know the United States is your best ally. And the only reason why you guys aren't speaking Japanese and Chinese right now is because of the United States. So show a modicum of respect, would you not? Go ahead, Leroy.
Nothing. The fact that you knew that I was looking up the graphics that spoke to Australia's violence is funny.
Yeah, because that's the funny thing. You guys may not have gun violence, but you're actually a very violent country. Look at your knives. Do you understand how many knife deaths have happened in Australia over the last 10 years?
So
are you guys going to ban knives?
What Matt was talking about was the fact that I was looking up these graphics, which I were. After the ban in Australia, and I have it right here. These are facts, people. These aren't
facts, right? Numbers, real facts.
So since the ban on guns in Australia, armed robberies went up 69%.
I'm sorry, no. The mandatory buyback, Leroy, say it right, not a ban, because they still have guns and they're just all owned by criminals.
They do. But since then, armed robberies had gone up 69%. Assault with guns, ironically, went up 28%. Gun murders went up 19%. And home invasions went up 21%. Good job.
Yeah, Tim, that sounds good. Like, we don't have enough crime in the United States. And we're not saying that firearms stop all crime. We know that that's not true. And we know the United States has a crime problem in the U.S. You also are essentially a pimple on our ass. We have 332 million people. Your economy, it doesn't even rival 15 of our states of our lowest GDP. So you can sit here and say that you don't have these problems. You do. You have an extremely high crime rate. You know this. I know this. You have government telling you what to do, how to do it. You have absolutely no way to stop the government from telling you what to do. And you can sit here and look over the pond if you want and question, but really you have no earthly idea what you're talking about. Donald Trump was not convicted of any sexual offense in his entire life. That is a complete lie. It is a complete fallacy.
Boom. There you go, folks.
Liv, do you have anything you want to drop on Tim from before he puts another one on the Barbie?
The best thing to come out of Australia is Chris Hemsworth. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh, now I will say this. If anybody has not watched Mr. In Between, it's an Australian show and it's fantastic. There's no American actors in it. It is impeccably done. The whole thing takes place in and is starred by Australian actors, and it's awesome. Mr. In Between.
What's it about?
Oh, it's about this guy who is trying to live like two lives at once. And on one hand, he's like a dad and like a good boyfriend, this kind of thing, and works at a nightclub. And on the other hand, sometimes he's a hitman. And it's really good.
Oh, cool. That sounds good. That sounds good. How is he a hitman in Australia when they don't have guns?
Oh, but they do. So.
No. But then, wait. How's he a hitman? Does he use harsh words? I don't understand. Australia doesn't have any guns.
I mean, there are pistols in the show. So.
Oh, by the way, here's the thing that Leroy also usually pulls up from 1911. Yes. Turkey, 1.5 million people were murdered and killed. 1929, the Soviet Union, 20 million people. 1935, China, 20 million. 1938, Germany, 13 million. 1956, Cambodia, 1 million. 1964, 100,000. 1970, 300,000. Overall, communism has been responsible for over 100 million deaths worldwide. And you can talk about war. Now, usually what obviously, Timmy, your little feeble mind will say, no offense, is, oh, well, how many are the United States responsible for? Not that many. Not even close. So,
you know what boggles me about that?
Go ahead.
Boggles my mind about that is that some of those statistics, that last one that you pulled up, was from 1970, right? And I just think to myself, I mean, yes, it's a long time ago, but really, it wasn't that long ago. And so when you're thinking 300,000 people that the government killed in 1970, and you're like, man, you'd think that people would learn by now. Sorry.
No. The last thing is, this is a photograph of the books that people were asking about. These 3 books you can find on Amazon. They're like $11.99 a piece, and they are full copies of the Bill of Rights, Constitution, Declaration of Independence. They go everywhere with me. They've been sitting here on my table for 3 years now doing the show. I refer to them constantly. They are fantastic. So if you don't have those, okay, let's talk about the sub real quick, and let's get this over, and then let's pop smoke.
Okay, somebody had a question.
Let's talk
what's
about
the
a sub.
question?
They would love to hear your thoughts on China.
Okay.
I don't know if that's for another day or
No. I'll do it quickly. China is becoming more and more aggressive. I believe that we have done something very stupid. Blinken went to China and essentially reversed 50 years of U.S. policy of protecting Taiwan's independence, at least from a global standpoint and a position of verbal support for Taiwan. Now, this isn't the first time. Tiananmen Square was probably one of the largest pushes by China that would have the most negative publicity, but that's really truly where you can see China and how they run their government. That has not changed in any way, shape, or form. They are totalitarian. They are pseudo in the sense of how they believe. They have a constitution, they have a Bill of Rights, they have freedom of speech, but they don't actually believe in any of those things. They pretend their egalitarian rule is somehow laced in theologic principles, but they're not. They despise religion, they despise unification of the people. They have waged wars across Asia in regards to Tibet, in regards to the Korean people, in regards to the Japanese, and the Japanese has kicked China's ass several times. They are all about expansion from an economic standpoint, and now we're starting to see that they are replacing the Russians, and they are a Cold War 2.0. They have training bases, and now in Cuba. We know they have police stations in the United States. China is a thorn in our side, and they are doing whatever they can to influence the world stage. I was there for the Hong Kong takeover. We ran security operations in 95, 96 when Hong Kong left British rule and was taken over by China. My fleet was there for support, and we ran security and operations and OPSEC for that turnover. And I will tell you firsthand that Hong Kong was a thriving, capitalistic republic from a law standpoint, with a thriving democracy, with an open electorate, with open elections and free elections, and went to Chinese flags on every street corner, limited amount of American sailors being able to travel in Hong Kong, the people being oppressed and taxed, and the takeover was horrific. If Joe Biden allows Taiwan to be taken over, there is only one thing I care about. I really don't even necessarily care about the independence of Taiwan. I care about the semiconductor market. And if the semiconductor market is taken over by China, you will see China take over as a world power in the next 10 years. The United States will be absolutely crippled. Not only will all of our pharmaceuticals be dependent upon China, not only will most of our mercantile and our products and goods come from China, you're then saying that all of our electronics, vehicles, phones, TVs, everything will be at the fingertips of Chinese production if they take over Taiwanese semiconductor market. It is a massive mistake. Not only does it cripple Taiwan, it cripples the ability for Japan. It leaves Japan isolated and alone. It creates China to be able to invade Japan if they want to, because it gives them a staging area. It gives them a very large military force. And if we have the capability, I would take every single dollar that we're putting in Ukraine and redirect it to Taiwan, give them the weapon systems now to stop missile systems, get them anti-ship missiles to stop a Normandy-style invasion, which is what it will take to get Taiwan. Give them every type of capability. I don't care if you have to give them old CSC-3 missile systems, whatever it is, arm them to the teeth, stand behind them, and give them unilateral support from a geopolitical standpoint and a financial backing. Because if we do not, we will turn China into the largest superpower. And it's almost like Biden has already decided that there is no point in competing with China, and to kind of bow out of this and give them the largest superpower in the world. And I think it is a tremendous mistake. Leroy, I apologize that was so long, but there's my take on China.
So I have to be very cautious of how I say this, and everyone should have some level of awareness with this. I am a bit of a China expert. It is something that I study for real, and it's a problem. Now, that being said, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to get too far into the weeds of anything, and I'm going to keep it way shorter than Matt's. I had to give a brief. And it was detailed, folks. Everything from water to demographics to energy to imports to food, everything, every possible facet of Chinese culture and life and what they're going to need to survive in the future was covered in this. And all I'm going to do is read you the very last slide on this. The Chinese report card looks like this. Demography is a fast urbanization combined with a Maoist population controls that gutted the Chinese birth rates for decades. The one bright spot that China's demographics are not in the worst in the world. They're not the worst in the world. China or Russia's is worst. The border, vast empires to the west, jungles to the south, nuclear powers to the north and the southwest, and superior maritime powers to the east. China doesn't so much secure its borders as it manages them as best it can. Under the resources slot, I had China. It didn't really get serious about industrialization until the 1970s. So its local resources were all tapped out more or less all at once. And that served China well until now. China is on the verge of running out of everything. Under the military tab, we had China has a huge military, and its military is modernizing quickly. But that doesn't mean that it's a military that's well suited to the challenges of today or tomorrow. Economy. The Chinese system is both highly leveraged right now and highly dependent upon international trends that it cannot shape or preserve. Every system that has followed China's path has crashed, and so will China soon. The outlook is that only Russia has worth relations with its neighbors. In the event of a crisis, no one will be extending or helping hand to China. In terms of Taiwan, I am not one of the analysts that think that China can pull off an invasion of Taiwan. What China has done in terms of looking at Russia and Ukraine as the example is to understand that to go from Russia to Ukraine is largely flat land. Okay. When we're talking about, and that's a country that's been able to prepare and push off a Russian invasion for, say, the last 30 years. Taiwan has an 80-mile gap of water between China mainland and Taiwan. Oh, and they've been able to prepare for a potential Chinese invasion for the last 80 years. Their equipment is far superior. And if anybody has ever tried to transport anything over a large swath of water like that, that's going to require a lot of things that are already in place. In other words, along the border, and we have satellites looking down on this kind of thing all the time, folks. So in order to prepare for something like that, you're going to see a massive buildup of logistical equipment along the borders in China, something we're already looking for and can give Taiwan a potential heads up on, because it's going to take months to acquire all of that stuff. And so it's not like this is going to be a surprise. They're going to know that it's coming, and Taiwan will be far more prepared than Ukraine was.
Okay.
I don't see this as something that's achievable.
All right. So
just my thought.
No. It's a great, if everything stays status quo, it's a great thought.
Yeah.
But you're not using predictive analysis effectively, and I'm disappointed in you, because that's not what we're talking about.
Well, that
you're saying status quo. You're saying in China in its current state of readiness. Of course, that's why they want Taiwan. So let me go ahead and provide the counterpoints to your brief, because it's it's absolutely accurate. I've said the same thing. It's like Normandy 2.0. You're talking it logistically, to move the amount of army that you would need and military forces into Taiwan. Logistically, China doesn't have the capabilities. They don't have to do that, bro. All they got to do is do what we did to Japan and put a blockade on it, and Taiwan can't answer it. They would require U.S. Navy. It would take JSDF. And JSDF isn't going to do shit, so Japan's not going to get involved because it's all ran by the United States. So Japan's not going to do it. So who is going to go ahead and open up the shipping lanes for Taiwan? Who's going to go ahead and do that? Russia's not going to do that. England's not going to get involved. India's not going to get involved. So essentially, they're going to be up to the Taiwanese Navy. That shit's going to get sunk in a New York minute, because all you have to do is blockade and stop the throughfare and the imports coming into Taiwan, and you can starve them the fuck out. Then you have regime change without putting one boot on the ground. That is why the United States saying, hey, we don't support Taiwanese independence, opens up China to put a blockade on there and put sanctions on Taiwan and to shut them down from an economic standpoint, which kills them. Another thing I want to talk to you about, what would happen if the United States lost Mexico as a trade partner?
It would be damning.
Yeah, horribly damning. So Mexico's GDP is $889 billion. Taiwan, would you be shocked, is $719 billion. What would happen if we lost Saudi Arabia? What if we lost Saudi Arabia? Would that be damning? Sure. No. They're $889 billion. Taiwan gives them $1 trillion surplus towards their military. What's the United States overall spend annually on the defense budget, Leroy?
Oh, it's 800 billion.
Yeah, it's the size of Taiwan. So what you do is you elevate China's ability to literally match the United States overall defense spending. Imagine what would happen. I don't
see that happening.
How do you not see it happening?
Well, I'll tell you why. Because I also don't see where any sort of shipping throughfare could occur. I know that you're saying Japan would not get involved. I have a feeling that they would. Japan and China are one of those.
Wait, hold on now. How can the JSDF get involved when it's ran by the United States? Japan doesn't have a standing army. And Japan's Navy is literally ours.
That's the point. It's the largest Navy, the second largest Navy in the world.
We're not going to stop it. We just told, okay, stop. This is what I'm telling you that I'm not sure. I don't understand where you're coming from. Who is going to stop the Chinese Navy from putting in a blockade and an embargo on Taiwan? Who?
Japan.
We just
and
said
Australia.
No, Japan will not. Japan is the United States. The United States just said they don't recognize Taiwanese independence, which means we're not getting involved. We have stepped away. He just set foreign policy that says we are not going to get involved. And if we're not getting involved, Japan's not getting involved. And you think Australia is going to stop China's Navy?
I think they would get involved.
Wait, they just said they won't. Blinken, the secretary, just went to China and specifically said that the United States does not recognize Taiwanese independence from China. Period. For the first time. He said it back in 2022, Biden did. They just confirmed it. Blinken just set precedent, bro. This is the Secretary of State.
When was this?
3 days ago. I have the video. You want the video? I'm going to get the video.
Because I was unaware of that.
I know you were, and that's why I'm telling you, holy shit, bro, this changes everything. This allows them to stop saying, well, we don't need to invade. All we need to do is fucking blockade them and stop their throughfare. If they own the Taiwanese Straits, it's over. Taiwan dies. They've been fighting over the Taiwanese Straits. That's complete throughfare to Russia. It's thoroughfare to China. It's thoroughfare to Korea. It's thoroughfare down to Australia. The Taiwanese Straits is single-handedly the second biggest thoroughfare. Well, third, outside of what? Panama Canal and the Suez Canal?
The amount of goods, I actually have it here, that get thrown through there is actually really impressive. Give me a second.
I know, bro. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You crush the world economy. And this is what I've said all along. China doesn't want to take over the United States. They want Australia. They want Taiwan. They want the shipping lanes to shut off the east to the west. And if they own the shipping lanes, then we don't have to go into Shanghai. We're going to have to fight Australia, Sri Lanka, the Sumatras, southern India. This is completely different. This is endgame shit. This is what the Japanese wanted to do. And this is what the Empire of Japan did when they hit Pearl Harbor. People don't understand that they hit 17 other islands and countries. They hit China. They hit the Koreas.
I was unaware of the Blinken thing from 3 days ago.
Yeah, buddy, let me get it for you. Sorry, I'm not trying to come down on you too hard. This is just a good gold watch, blue watch debate, buddy. That's all this is.
No. This is all good. I'm all for learning for new things, but I was unaware of that. And having said that, kind of my whole point behind that was that China has no friendly neighbors. But if we're also saying that Japan's not going to get involved, then when I'm looking at who they've had border disputes with in the past along the Straits of Malacca, the Sunda Strait, the Lombok Strait, and the Makassar Strait, that all outline kind of on the outline of the cow's tongue. I could see that being a problem. Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Hold on a second. Here's the video. Let's watch it.
More than half of the world's annual merchant fleet tonnage passes through the choke points. 1/3 of all maritime traffic worldwide. The oil transported through the Malacca from the Indian Ocean en route to East Asia through the South China Sea is triple the amount that passes through the Suez Canal and 15 times the amount.
You're not the only one. You're not the only one who had China as an AOR, big guy. So you and I could probably have a conversation that I don't believe China is a threat. China is now a threat. I don't either. Like 3 days ago, they weren't a threat. Now they're a threat because their Navy, no one's going to stop them. The only person who could possibly even have a chance is if India, Great Britain, and Australia all join forces. And you're telling me the United States is going to sit out of that and let Japan be taken next? There ain't no fucking way. Biden is not thinking. He's not playing chess here. He is acting dramatically and trying to keep peace with China when there is no peace with China. China wants Taiwan. They want Taiwan more than anything else in the world because it adds $1 trillion to their economy. And they can expand and destroy Korea's Taiwanese, their semiconductor capabilities. This is why I said we shouldn't be sending $150 billion to Ukraine. We should be building a semiconductor mega plant in the United States. That is what we should.
Ohio.
Pharmaceuticals. Yeah. Pharmaceuticals and semiconductors. Those are the two things that China howls over us. I'm sorry I'm talking so fast. Watch this real
you're
quick.
Good. What I was going to say was there's no way in hell that China could even operate any of the equipment that that produces those semiconductors in Taiwan. It's too technical. They don't know how to do it.
They don't have to. That's why you have slaves.
Slaves aren't going to know. You don't hand a slave. You don't turn a slave into a high-end engineer. That doesn't happen.
Brother, they already have it in Taiwan. Hold on.
Talking about the Taiwanese people. I understand that.
I don't understand it. What is he saying? Say it again, Leroy.
Okay. There's no way China can even operate any of the equipment in Taiwan that pumps out the high-end ICs that the world needs.
Correct.
What China is good at is the low-end ICs, the things that, tell your toaster when the toast is popped up and then it's done. But that's not even my point. Okay. I understand exactly what you're saying. My counter to that is that this whole thing is dependent on Biden policy, and we're already 2 years into a Biden administration. If we end up with another president, I don't know that would hold. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, I want you to listen to this.
These are the kind of international policies that tend to waffle every 4 or 8 years.
Right, but what you do, so this is where I have a problem. is because you can't fight a multifaceted war. We've got a lot of naval components in the Black Sea and surrounding areas because of Ukraine and Russia. Now you want to split our United States Navy, and you're going to go ahead and put the other 75% of our Navy over in the South China Sea. You can't do that. So what you're going to need is world support. You're going to need England. You're going to need India. You're going to need Australia. You're going to need Japan and JSDF. You're going to need South Korea. You're going to need all of those areas to support us in order to go ahead and stop any threat. And all you're doing is creating dissension amongst this global effort, because all they're going to say is the United States said less than a year and a half ago that Joe Biden said they do not recognize independence of Taiwan. Why would we back up the United States? This is why they didn't help us in the second Iraq war. This is why the nations didn't join us, is because there was indecision from Senate, there was indecision from the House, and the vote was split, and it wasn't unanimous. If you don't have 100% unfettered support from Washington, D.C., countries are going to balk about helping us. We can't do this alone. We can't run a multifaceted war. That's why there hasn't been a World War III, because we know what happened with Japan and we know what happened with Germany. We were so stretched thin. Listen to this. Or maybe not, because that's not the video. Hold on a second. I'll find it.
It's all good.
Keep going. I want to hear. I want to hear counterpoints.
I'm just looking at that map with all of China's allies, and I'm looking at it going, there are none. And I don't see how they pull that off, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's where South Africa comes in.
So many countries that are allies to us that are in the immediate area, i.e. India, i.e. Vietnam. There are other players there that do not want China to gain any more of a foothold in that region. And if anything else, you could say that they are, in fact, arch enemies.
Yeah, that's why you need to listen to this, because I think it's going to clear up a lot of questions. Here it is. Take a listen.
On Taiwan, I reiterated the long-standing U.S. One China policy. That policy has not changed. It's guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, the 6 assurances. We do not support Taiwan independence. We remain opposed to any unilateral changes to the status quo by either side. We continue to expect the peaceful resolution of cross-strait differences.
That is dangerous.
It's terrifying. And let me just say one thing. The first thing China's going to do is China will put an embargo. They will put police in that area. They will go ahead and in the dead of night, I mean, this will be absolutely the same thing that North Korea did to South Korea with the sleeper subs moving in. They'll put sleeper cells in South Korea, and they will take the most prominent politicians. They'll take the best scientists' families, and they will murder these people. And they'll put them in camps in China. And then they will go ahead and, just like they treated the Uyghurs in China, they will take over the Taiwanese people, and they will beat them down and enslave those people. And those conductor plants will be very similar to the plants that were making iPhones in China, in Xinjiang, is that they will be modern-day slave camps. Now, the only reason why those have changed is because Apple's floating the bill. Do you think China's making the living conditions better for those people at Foxconn? No, of course not. It's fucking Apple. It has nothing to do with China. They will create slave plants in Taiwan to make these semiconductors. It'll expand to Chinese mainland. And once they have the technology, they will then move to Japan. China has had their ass kicked by Japan how many times? 7? There is a hatred for Japan, and that's their ultimate target. And if truly Putin wants Poland, which I don't think he does, Xi Jinping wants Japan. So I'm just telling you, man, I'm not afraid of China. I am afraid of what Blinken just said by giving them carte blanche to do anything other than military. Because if they put a trade embargo and a blockade, the United States gets involved, we sink their fucking Navy. Now it opens up economic sanctions. It opens up a completely different gambit for China to manhandle Taiwan. And they have the resources to at least put a blockade and sanctions on them and do it very effectively. That's my fear.
Yeah. And I can see where all of these overflights, all of these military exercises right off the coast of China, and in some cases right over Taiwan, then that makes a lot more sense. That's a dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounded pretty innocuous. on its surface, but there's huge ramifications in there that basically say that if you guys want to do anything, we're not going to get involved.
He just said he believes in one China. You just
dangerous.
You just took the CCP's standpoint. The Communist Chinese Party's number one talking point is one China. Right. One China. And it's not just Taiwan, by the way. There are multiple countries that are within the one China policy, including Vietnam, including Malaysia, Sumatra. There are multiple islands that are essentially what China is saying is theirs, the one China. It's dangerous.
Well, it's Bhutan, Brunei, Cambodia, Indonesia, Japan, Laos, Malaysia, Mongolia, Nepal, Philippines. Yeah.
Sumatra's on there too.
Yeah.
Dude, you guys, I wasn't kidding. I mean, Russia was my number one AOR. China was number two. And I knew more about China than I did Russia. So if that tells you anything, this is the entire South China Sea would be up for grabs. And this would essentially be what Japan tried to do in World War II and why the United States fervently stood and said, we're not allowing the Philippines to be taken. We're not allowing Sumatra and Malaysia to be taken. We are going to stand this Papua New Guinea. These areas will not be taken by the Chinese because if we do, we lose. We lose. This is why we put everything into Midway. This is why we put everything into protecting Hawaiian Islands, because we did not want to give Japan the ability to wage war closer to U.S. soil. If we do the same thing for China, you embolden China to hit the west coast of the United States. And that is something they cannot do, and no major country has been able to do since World War II when Japan tried it. This is dangerous shit. Fuck China, fuck Russia. Worry about this. Worry about this now. That's my gut feeling. And I'm not being an alarmist. I'm just telling you the truth.
Even if the United States does not get involved, I wonder if there are other countries that would do a similar embargo or a similar
sanction or whatever.
Sanctions to stop China from importing anything, because as we've already noted,
but who cares? They export 90% of their GDP. Who cares? People would say, I'm going to stop buying, so we're going to allow our
that's kind of my point, man.
Who's going to do that? Who's going to cut their own throat? Who's going to, you think, but listen, you think the United States is going to stop buying from China because they go into Taiwan? Why do you think the United States is doing this? They don't want, how much do we import from Taiwan, from China a year?
I see what you're saying, but my point is that in a world where we've already agreed that things like food and energy are going to become scarce in the very near future. And we're talking about a country that imports more than 80% of its energy and more than 50 to 60% of its food. All a country, and it doesn't even have to be the United States, all a country has to do
Since when does China care about their people starving?
And the lights literally stop in China for the foreseeable future. So
Since when has China cared about starving their people, bro? They don't give a shit. They don't care. And this is okay. And then somebody said, hey, Japan makes semiconductors. Yeah, so does Vietnam. So does South Korea. So does the United States. The problem is we can't do it pennies on the dollar. It's the cost. Japan's costs for semiconductors are outrageous. It's not a viable option. Chinese have absolutely, through Taiwan has absolutely just completely cornered the semiconductor market, and we should be doing everything we can to catching up. That's the problem. You know what I would do with Taiwan? We'll give you unfettered protection. Just give us 10 of your most prolific semiconductor developers and give us 1 year to learn from them so we can become a player on this market, and we'll shut China down. But that takes forethought. I don't know, man. I'm sorry, Leroy. I'm pumped up about this one. This one,
no, and I get it. I see the passion. I just don't see any winning moves here for China. I don't see where any of this ends with them in a better position moving forward. Like, doesn't
they have
matter.
1 trillion reasons to do it. 1 trillion reasons.
What's that?
1 trillion reasons. You take over Taiwan's economy.
I don't know that it's enough.
I don't know, dude. Phones?
I don't.
But think about that. Okay, how many people's economies are wrapped around Apple?
Oh, I understand the argument technologically and in
If
terms
Apple
of GDP.
if Apple can only produce 70% of the phones they sold last year, Apple goes out of business.
Right.
Apple is, I'm going to tell you directly from Steve Jobs' mouth, directly. We are one bad iPhone launch away from going bankrupt.
I think that's at least part of the reason why they've tried to start looking at viable options to put a chip plant here in the United States. There's one that's going in just south of Columbus where I am at.
Yeah, we're too slow, though.
Well, it's going to take a decade.
Of course it's going to take a decade. It was going to take a decade 20 years ago. We should have been on top of this. When Silicon Valley lost their grip on overall chip creation and development, and semiconductors ultimately became the go-to, the United States rested on its laurels. And China, look what China was at 10, 15 years ago. They weren't considered a superpower or even on the precipice of being a superpower. Now look at them. Everyone thought it was going to be Japan. So anyway, this is listen. Okay, I want to just clarify. I'm not being alarmist. I understand what this means. And if Joe Biden sat idly by while China took over Taiwan, it would be single-handedly the dumbest thing ever done by a sitting president ever in the history of the world or leader. So I don't think it's going to happen. But what I'm saying is that his Secretary of State just said that. They just put that out there in the world and told every other country that if China goes into Taiwan, it's up to you to stop it. It's up to the UN to stop it. It's up to other countries to stop it. That is a dangerous thing to do. That's essentially like Trump saying, hey, Putin, if you want to go ahead and go into the Donbass region, go ahead. We believe in one Russia, and bringing back the Cossacks and the old empire of, or the old Iron Curtain of Russia. Could you imagine if he did that? It's not good, dude.
You know, China is an export-led economy, and the linchpin to that, the weak point to that entire philosophy or system is the fact that you have to have willing customers. When you go and piss off half of the world, it doesn't matter if they need ICs or not. There's going to be another IC plant. And if that's the only item that you can really make a buck on, because let's face it, I mean, part of the Chinese model has always been that, you know, you don't care about quality, you don't care about profit, you don't care about your workers' safety or anything like that. So what they've done essentially is to sell things at near low profit, if they're making anything at all, just in the hopes that they can keep their people employed and keep them busy enough so that they don't revolt. I think that if you shut the lights off and if you stop the food shipments coming into China, that presents enough of a problem, the potential there, that you've got all of a sudden 1 billion people, to your point, Matt, who are now pissed off and hungry. And one thing that the Chinese government does not want to have happen is for large groups of angry, hungry people to go on long strolls together, bitching about the government. I see that as that's a problem.
I'm just going to say one thing. Taiwan is not just semiconductors. Taiwan are liquid crystal displays. They make the phone displays. They make the cooling systems for phones. They have a direct link into Africa with the material. I can't remember what it's not cobalt. It's God, I can't remember the name of the mineral that is so coveted in Africa for phones. Liv, can you look that up?
I'm looking it up.
It's
lithium,
not choline.
cobalt,
No, it's not
cadmium.
cobalt. It's coal something. Fuck. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Taiwan does a hell of a lot more than just semiconductors.
Tantalum?
No. Keep going.
Tungsten?
No.
Okay.
No, it's one of the premier.
Coltan?
Yes, coltan. Thank you. Coltan is in Africa. I thought it was cobalt. I knew it was a C. It doesn't matter. They process more than just that. Taiwan is also responsible for a lot of U.S. military guidance systems, which you're aware of too. There is a shit ton of technology in Taiwan that China doesn't need to sustain. They only need to get a look at it. Leroy, that's what they want. They want to get a look at it. They want to get a peek of the MiG. They want to have someone pop the hatch of the freaking Red October so they can go ahead and inspect it. That's what China wants. They want to gain access to the intellectual IPs of Taiwan. That's what they want. They don't care about sustaining. They want to get in, get the IPs, and then recreate. That's their goal. And that's what terrifies me. This is a fantastic conversation. Dude, we need to get in person because I love talking to you about this stuff. I agree with you. I think this is it's a pipe dream either way. I think it's a pipe dream to say that it won't happen, and I think it's a pipe dream to say it will happen. Right now, it's extremely important for Biden to keep the status quo, and he's not doing that. He gave
with
China
that piece
a trump
that
card.
you told me about Blinken from 3 days ago, that's a huge piece of information that I was unaware of.
Well, you've been busy, bro.
That's a problem.
You've been busy.
Yeah, it's been a little busy.
you've had a little bit of going on in the world. So you're not responsible for knowing everything.
I'm trying to manage 2 teams right now is what it is.
Dude, you don't have to explain to me. I get it. And by the way, if you are an owner in Taiwanese Semiconductor, which I almost was, I almost put a third of my Apple stock in the TSM. I'm so glad I didn't. I'm just going to tell you that. I could have gotten in at TSM when it was $3.72 a share. I don't even know what it is right now. Hold on. Let me look. $101.91. I could have got in on it at $3 a share. I was so close. I swear to God, I was going to buy 1,000 shares of that when my first options came in at Apple. I wish I would have done it. What a return. But I made more money on Apple. All right, folks, listen. Thanks for watching the Donut and Friendly Show. This is a rare occurrence. My beautiful wife did not get involved tonight, and she's been wonderful. And Olivia, I'm so sorry. Did you want to say anything tonight to everybody? We had a lot of viewers come on, though. I've
been keeping track of viewers.
We've had a couple hundred people on. They like the conversation, so it's not a what.
We're coming in to say goodnight.
What? You're going to bed at 10 o'clock?
I'm not going to bed. Really late last night.
Have you showered?
All right. We love you. Just let us wrap up. We'll be right out. 3 minutes.
Coming out in a minute.
All right. So everybody do me a favor. Olivia's bored. You know what, Liv? We sometimes have to do the politics thing.
You know what? I'm fine with it. I stuck in there.
People enjoyed it.
Makes her
was
so excited. Look at her.
Cool. That's totally cool. It's over my head, and it's just
She looks
not
like she's
something
been
that
watching the
interests
paint
me.
dry.
All right, folks. So we're going to go ahead and talk about the Kardashians now.
Fuck no.
Olivia's had a long week.
Honestly, I couldn't pick them out of a police lineup. They serve no purpose to me whatsoever.
I could pick Kim Kardashian's top of her head. That's about it with that video that she was in with, what was the guy's name? Ray J or whatever.
Ray J.
Was that his name? Ray
I
J?
think so.
I didn't even see it. So here's
the meme that's going around of the Kardashians have been on TV for 20 years, and I haven't watched one episode.
Yeah, me neither.
Yep.
I'm that guy. Listen, folks, we appreciate it. So we can do very different shows. It wound up being a great show. You may not have had the biggest blast, Olivia, but I promise you there's a lot of information in there. And when Leroy and I do that, I don't disagree with Leroy. That's the thing. I just think that the one linchpin is the comment that was made about Taiwan is extremely dangerous because the pulpit, national television, the presidential seal is now saying that the United States officially supports one Taiwan. I want to give you an example of what this is like, and I know Leroy will agree with me. If in 1990, if the United States government would say that the Republic of Iraq has claim to Kuwait, I would rather have that. I would rather have North Korea, the United States say North Korea has claim to South Korea, and I would rather have them say Russia has claim to Ukraine and Crimea than them ever saying China. All of those right there, I would give them all of those chips versus saying we support one China and no longer support Taiwanese independence. That's how serious I think this is. I think this is tragically the biggest mistake the United States could possibly make, not backing Taiwan. That's my belief. Leroy, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but I think it's pretty serious, but that's just me.
There is a lot to unpack, and literally books have been written about this subject. So when Matt and I are talking about it, I'm trying to recall literally terabytes of information, and Matt is too.
Yeah, we got a lot
enough
of
a if it's enough of a evolving situation so fast that it's really difficult to make predictions of. That being said, by 2030, if China holds together as a country, I will be shocked.
I completely agree, as long as more conversations like this don't happen. Here's the comment from Blinken. You can see where it took place. And the volatility in Taiwanese semiconductor, it dropped like a tank. The moment that Blinken said that, I'm just saying this. I agree with everything he said.
You know what's weird about that? Because Pelosi was there not a year and a half ago, too. That's what's weird.
But Biden said it in 2022. That's why I'm surprised you didn't know. Biden said that he doesn't recognize the independence of Taiwan. Here's the one thing. I'm just going to put a bow on this. If you have not watched The West Wing, go into season 6. Episode around what, honey? 6 or 7? Either way, they talk about this exact thing. And
that's right.
You should go watch it, because the president takes a Taiwanese older flag, the green flag with the magnolia flower in the middle of it, and it creates huge controversy. And it's a really good episode to show you the struggles between China and Taiwan. But Leroy and I are on the exact same page. We have read the same type of reference. We have the same type of data. And what I felt 25 years ago is the same today, is China has an energy problem. China has a food problem. China has a sustainability problem. China has built 9 cities that are way too large and is essentially impoverished in the rest of its country. It is too spread out. It is not centralized. It's got too many hands and too many cookie jars. Him and I agree, except if you get Taiwan. You get Taiwan, you add $1 trillion in net revenue to that country, and that solves all of their problems, because Taiwan does not have an energy problem. Taiwan does not have a science problem, and that gives them an ungodly amount of money. And Russia can pull out of Ukraine and then provide China all the food that they want. There's a lot of variables at play here that make me nervous. And if you also look at China, Russia, North Korea, and South Africa going in together on their own type of monetary system, that is a very small thing against the United States. It is not even a blip on our radar. But if more countries decide to join Russia, China, and then they get into Africa, then you get South America, you get Brazil and Venezuela going in with them, you have a very large amount of money and a lot of countries that have a ton of resources in bed with 2 very big superpowers that don't like the United States. We have to be careful. Geopolitics is dangerous, and we're not playing the game right now. We're not playing the game. We're doing it horribly.
On that we agree.
Okay, good. Well, as long as we agree. Love you guys. Thanks. Do me a favor. Go to the Don't Unfriend Me Show store at thedumshow.com. Pick yourself up a cool shirt, a cool hat. Olivia, my beautiful wife, she's so amazing. She now has the pot pie shirt waiting for you to buy. If you do, she will send you the pot pie recipe. And let me tell you, it's amazing. Olivia, thank you. I will give you your goodbyes for the weekend, and then I'll turn it over to Leroy, and we'll pop smoke and go. Go.
Thanks for watching. Have a good weekend.
Wagner just shut down a Russian helicopter. Leroy.
Hey,
Wagner just shot down a Russian helicopter.
Jesus.
Leroy's going to have to go. Get out. Just pop smoke. See
that is hilarious. I do have to go.
I know you do.
Love you
bye.
guys.
See ya.
Dummies.
Love you. Bye. So Leroy's been punted. Olivia says good night. Love you all. Say it.
Night. Night, y'all.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next time on the Don't Unfriend Me Show. See you on Monday. We'll be back at 8 o'clock, and I'll have a recorded show for you. Go watch the current recorded show. It's pretty good. I think you'll enjoy it. God bless. Thanks for watching the Don't Unfriend Me Show. Good night.
I'm David Boreanaz with the Cast of SEAL team, and we have an important message for returning vets. We want you to know if you're struggling to cope,
What I said was earlier when we were talking about Russia and the Wagner Group, they just shot down a Russian helicopter. So there is civil unrest inside Russia right now. There's rumors of an overthrow of the government, 26,000 strong civil war. Just pay attention, folks. And the reason why Leroy has to go probably isn't because of that, but I have a feeling he's going to be very busy over the next couple of weeks. Okay, goodbye.
I'm David Boreanaz with the Casta SEAL team, and we have an important message for returning vets.
We want you to know if you're struggling to cope, there's help and it's just a phone call away.
The Veterans Crisis Line is staffed with experienced professionals who know your struggles.
There's no greater sacrifice than service to our country. We're able to enjoy our freedoms because of it.
Your service is important. You are important.
For vets and their families, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help 24 hours a day. Please call